It's not been the best of European campaigns for the Welsh regions. How have you reflected now on the competition in this past week?
How have I reflected on it? Well, yeah, it's certainly been very challenging, but from a outcome point of view, from a performance point of view, from an exposure point of view, on many levels, and I understand why people ask the questions. From what I understand, it's not a unique question. Obviously, I'm new to it. It's a question that a lot of coaches in my position have had to answer or be asked their opinion on. And my opinion is pretty simple, really. In order for Wales to be successful, the regions have to produce good players, and in order for that to happen, we need to be competitive at the highest level possible, and that means that we need to obviously compete in Europe. So in order to compete in Europe, it then comes down to talent and depth of talent. And if you look at the teams that do well, they have a sprinkling of quality players from other nationalities or other areas in order for other players to learn from. And we need a collaborative, joined up approach with our squad depth to make sure we don't keep exposing the same players to the same things. And we've got a situation where we've got to grow as much local talent as we can in order to get the strength in depth that we all require to be successful regions and successful for Wales.
How much of a blessing is it to you then that you can get straight back on the horse this weekend and straight back into URC action?
Yeah, really excited. I mean, obviously disappointed. There were elements of our performance that, and realistic performance in the European campaign, particularly obviously the Racing game a couple of weeks back and the first part of that, and obviously the Sale at home game. So there's bits that we can measure ourselves against big European powerhouses. But yeah, we're excited to the URC, which was obviously a focal point for us as a region. And as you said, we're growing our own talent, and to get them to be exposed to the European and then back onto the horse to URC is something that you have to deal with as a professional. And yeah, it's an opportunity for them to keep learning and keep pushing forward and compete really well, against Edinburgh, which is a very tough ask for us, but we're really excited about it.
Yeah, they don't come easy. They're top of the table, Edinburgh. It's going to be a real stern challenge for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is, and especially if as we both teams have got depletions from pre-season camps and availability and bits and pieces, so and an injury count. But yeah, it is what it is, and we're looking forward to challenging ourselves as we always do against the very best. The exciting thing for us is that we're at home and we've got people coming in to watch it, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, how much of a boost is it that the fans are going to be back for this?
Yeah, massively. I think that everyone loves watching live sport. People love performing in front of live audiences, and in those difficult moments, your home crowd makes a massive difference. You've seen that in results when behind closed doors in all different sports, how much parity occurs when there isn't a crowd. So yeah, we need as much support as we get and get behind the young players and drive us over the line.
I don't know if you're a stat man, but you've got a pretty good home record against Edinburgh. They've not beaten you in Swansea since 2009, so that's on your side.
All I know is my very first game was Edinburgh away last year, and we won that. After that, then not really. I haven't played them since, so from that point of view, it probably doesn't apply to me and our group. But yeah, they're the next URC opposition, and we can't look any further forward than that.
You got Gareth Anscombe back this weekend. How much of a boost is it that somebody of that quality is available to you?
I think just having good players around the place, from that point of view. And, Gareth is still very mindful of where we've come off a 2-year injury and bits and pieces. And so his performances are improving week on week. And so getting him back and getting some game time is brilliant. Having Steve Myler back is massively important for us as well. So 2 focal experienced players in the quarterback position. So from that point of view, yeah, that can only mean good things for us.
Yeah, we know that Dan Bigger is the captain and the 10, but do you think Anscombe has got the form and the confidence ready to challenge for that 10 shirt at all during the Six Nations?
I think that Gareth needs to put, his own performance at the centre of what he does, and if he performs well enough, the selection takes care of itself. He's been around a long time. We want to support and help him do that, and if that means he plays, cameo roles for us in Six Nations to get his name in the frame, then that's great, and then everyone collaborates and everyone gets a good outcome.
Is Rhys Webb available this weekend?
He is. Yep, Rhys Webb is available this weekend.
How are Josh Thomas, Sam Cross, Luke Morgan? They all got injured last weekend, I think.
Luke Morgan's fine. Josh Thomas is going through a HIA protocol. Luke Morgan, who else? Sam Cross. He's had, as you saw, he was stretchered from the pitch. The scan results have just come in actually, and they're encouraging. They're not as bad as first thought. So it'll be a long injury, but we're hopeful that now it doesn't require surgery.
Anybody back this weekend? The last time we spoke, you said that Dan Lydiate was back in training. Is he any closer to being named in a match day squad?
He has been back in training. It's been a bit of softly in that respect. It's going to be it's going to probably be a week too early for him, but we're still hopeful to get him back in the very near future. If not for this week, then certainly for the next one, which is just coming around the corner in Six Nations. Anybody else that we've spoken about? Colin's back. I think that's everybody, isn't it, that we talked about last week?
Yeah, we usually ask about Tipuric North and Alwyn Jones, but I imagine it's pretty much the same as last week.
Yeah, same as last week. Obviously, Tips has had that setback, so we're waiting to see where that falls. As I said, Six Nations is going to be a step too far for him. Al was in great form. Potentially could be back for the end of the Six Nations from a medical point of view, which is good for him and good for us and good for Wales. And also George, looking for the next few weeks, hopefully to get him back on the training pitch. So there's a chance that he might be featuring for us in middle of February.
Fingers crossed. Toby, good luck on the weekend. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Cheers.
Toby, it's marketers. Do you see any will at all to change things? Any will at all at the top of Welsh Rugby to change things in the shape of perhaps improving your funding relative to others?
I think the hard thing around that is we understand that it's a pretty tough place at the moment financially in the world. So look, I think we have to be mindful of that, of course. But sport is very fickle, and when you've got momentum, you need to try and champion the momentum, and momentum can mean different things in the game, but also outside the game. So I think that if we can get the infrastructures right, and this is not just for us and for everyone, and produce a lot more players and have more quality coaching and deeper squads and all those things, you become competitive both for the short term and the long term, and you can not be so dependent upon Welsh international players each week. So what does that mean in real terms? There's a direct correlation between investment and your ability to do that. So look, I think that everyone understands that. I think that we are, as regions, trying to look at our squads compared to European squads and what we have to do to make them deeper and stronger and more robust in a sport that's got lots of collision and always going to be 25% injuries. So look, the bottom line is you've got the money you've got, and I think we're also mindful that you can't. You have to be very surgical in what you do. It's not just a question of throwing money at it, but you've got to make sure that you spend it in the right way to future-proof, basically, for the short and the long term for, the regions, and then the benefit for Wales becomes obvious.
Do you see this season as just a particularly challenging one with COVID, with your massive injuries, and do you think that perhaps things will settle down a bit? Maybe next year?
Well, the injury percentage doesn't really alter too much, as an average. I think what the hidden thing around injuries is injuries in the same position or injuries all in your international players. So for us, I hope that does change because all of our high-profile players have predominantly we've been without for the majority of the time, if not all the time in a lot of cases. So I think that goes back to that argument about not being dependent on the same resources all the time. And if you get injuries in a group, whether that be an international group or positional group, you're always going to be exposed. And that's why you need high performing academies. That's why you need enough strength in depth to not be reliant on that, So, we've got 8 back rowers that are unavailable, 5 second rows that are unavailable at the moment. And there's not many squads probably in Europe that can deal with that. And so whether we've been unlucky, we obviously look at how we train, how we play, the collision and all those bits and pieces, and who we're exposing probably too early in their journey as youngsters. There's lots of things that go into the melting pot, but ultimately, if you get a lot of injuries in the same position, you're always going to get exposed. The challenge is recruiting a deep enough squad and developing a deep enough squad for that to not happen. Because
I'm kind of guessing that if you'd had your 11 internationals who weren't available last week, fit and firing and in your side, you'd have gone up to the AJ Bell Stadium and given Sale a better game than perhaps you did do.
Yeah, of course. So look at the performance of against them at home, which was more rounded. It was exaggerated because, as you said, we had to protect 2 positions in particular, which provided opportunity for others, which is fantastic. But we went there underpowered for sure, and ultimately the power decided, and it's about physics. Often it's about physics, So from that point of view, it's you want people that are battle hardened, streetwise, all of those things when you go for away from home in big European Champions Cup fixtures for sure.
What did you learn about the players you did feel last week?
We learned obviously that the most encouraging thing is they've got the temperament for it. And it was a good reflection on the cultural side of what we're doing, because despite what happened, and it did blow out a little bit towards the end, that they stuck at it, stuck toe to toe. They were massive commitment, and the one thing that despite all the adversity that we've found here at the Ospreys, these guys, the team, the squad, the off field have been brilliant in relation to. There's never been anything divisive or uncertain. It's always been very supportive and challenging in the right way, and everyone's continued to work hard and be focused on improving a performance in order for you to change your result. So we've learned that as a group, or we've been reminded of that, because the true reflection of your culture is what happens in adversity, right? So from that point of view, we've got a confirmation in that, which has been good. From a young player's point of view, you've seen the emergence of Harry Dees, for example, who had a visible performance, obviously and carried on his impact from when he was with Wales under-20s, and the impact actually that we see in training a lot, to be fair, and that's exciting for the long-term future. And notably a couple of other youngsters. Great learning for people like Reece Henry and these, scrummaging against international front rows and bits and pieces. So yeah, on an individual level, we've learned that we've got people that can begin to compete at that level, but we understand where they are on their journey. It's not putting too much on them. We have to put them in, take them out, rebuild them, keep making them fundamentally strong, so that when they get their opportunity, they can stay and perform at the highest level. And that's what development is all around. So those are the two major ones. And I suppose in adversity you see also true leadership. So I think that, for example, Adam Beard last week was absolutely exemplary in the way he led the side by what he said and what he did. And he could have easily have had one eye on internationals coming around the corner, and he didn't. He actually showed that he was an Ospreys man through and through in that moment. And yeah, we're getting the emergence of some good leadership in different players. Himself, Michael Collins, obviously Reece Webb before now has been that, and we need leadership to help these youngsters along. So they're probably the 3 things that we've learned.
You couldn't have seen many better debuts than Harry Dees' last week.
Yeah, obviously the eye marking of the try. and the consistent effort, and when the AJ Bell stadium and the people behind the bench are calling for him to be offside and get his hands out of breakdowns and bits and pieces like that, is the biggest compliment you can get when the home crowd gets on your back, which is pretty ironic considering the breakdown threats that they have on the other side. So the opposition coaching staff as well also commented on the fact that he was a good player, and if you're being eye-catching to the opposition on your debut, that's got to be a good thing.
So many young players don't actually come through. They sort of like shooting stars. They make an impression early on, and then perhaps don't actually fulfil that potential. In Harry's case, what do you think can be done to ensure that he does come through?
I mean, obviously it's a very physical position that he plays. So the first thing is about making him robust physically and making sure that it's a one-off here and there is completely different to be able to back up performances. Him, Joe Hawking, a couple of great examples, about understanding how physically and mentally you have to prepare from one week to another. So from that point of view, your preparation is absolutely key for them. And you have to do things when you don't feel physically perfect, and how you manage yourself and get yourself in the position to perform optimally. So I think that's the first thing that to overcome, the bit that you do before you get on the pitch, how you eat, how you prepare, how you sleep, all that sort of stuff. That gets put under duress, and then you want to get yourself into a situation where their talent decides, and the role of the team is to perform well, and within that, those opportunities will come, and that's how you see what true talent really is.
And with Edinburgh, they're missing 13 players. You're missing probably upwards of a dozen, I'd have thought, with all your injuries and your test guys.
21.
How many?
21.
21. Wow. Okay. So what are you expecting from Edinburgh this week?
Much the same with what you've seen from all season, really. They're an attacking-based side that like to play very positively and quickly. You saw that against Cardiff recently. I'm sure you've seen that. And if they get their tails up, they're very, very difficult to stop. So I think there's a big test for us defensively. We need a defensive effort that looked like Racing, for example, and the determination that you saw against Sale to not let anything go. So it starts with our mindset around defence. So we're going to need to make sure we need to control them the best we can. And if we can control them, then we can start to impose ourselves on them. And that's always the name of the game.
And Michael Collins is up next. How has he shaped up for you this season?
Again, leadership great. Got a lot of young boys around him. And it's been difficult for him because, he had an injury in the middle of it, started well, injury and then gone. So it's been a bit sort of truncated for him. I thought he's forming a great partnership with Owen Watkin, to be fair. They played very well as a pair together. We're looking to develop the attacking side of our game. So having that, you saw a couple of nice passes over the top of it. Having that distribution in there is great for us. And then he's providing leadership, for all around him. So he'll get better, and the more he understands what we're trying to do, and the more he fits into what we're doing, and the better he'll become. And I'm really pleased that he is the signing that we thought he would be, and that's the biggest compliment I can give him.
My last question, really. I watched the Ospreys under 18s last week. It was on TV against Cardiff. And you looked at a really good prospect in the back row there, a guy called Morgan Morse.
Yeah.
Have you seen him play?
Not seen much of him, but he's obviously, we have progression and depth charts all the way down from sort of 15 up, from that point of view. And yeah, he's certainly been in discussions in the future, which is great, and the succession plans, because your succession plans also shape your recruitment for now. So you want to make sure your talent gets through. And I think, you go back to your earlier question around producing talent for regions and for Wales I think the short-term fix has often been a stumbling block where you basically stop the talent getting through. You don't give them the opportunity to play, and you put some respectfully some journeyman in that middle band because you have to, and it's what you can afford. And we certainly as a region will take more of a risk around that to try and get this talent through to the top. Because that's our philosophy and that's what we believe in. And if it means there's a few bumps in the road, we all understand that, because we want to try and produce, lifelong Ospreys players, and that's important for us.